Have you ever found yourself talking and talking, only to realize that the message didn't land the way you hoped? Or maybe you've caught yourself thinking that if you just said more, people would understand you better. Here's a simple truth. Sometimes saying less can have a bigger impact than saying more. In a world full of noise, it's easy to fall into the trap of over-explaining, filling the space with words just for the sake of it. But the real power in communication comes from knowing when to speak, and more importantly, when to listen and pause. Imagine being able to convey your thoughts in a way that cuts through all the distractions, allowing your words to hold more weight and meaning. In this video, we're going to explore how you can learn to speak with impact and purpose. It's not about saying less just for the sake of it, but about saying what matters in the most effective way possible. This is a skill that can transform your personal and professional life, from your relationships to your career. By the end, you'll understand why fewer words, when chosen wisely, can actually help you connect more deeply, make your points clearer, and truly get your message across. Stay with me as we dive into the beauty of saying less and discover how you can become a more powerful communicator, one word at a time. Chapter 1. The Art of Brevity. How often do you find yourself caught in conversations, feeling like you've said too much? You've been talking, and then suddenly it hits you, you're rambling. Your mind is going a mile a minute, and your words are racing to keep up. You've said everything you could possibly think of, but somehow none of it seems to really land. You wonder, was that too much? It happens to all of us. Now imagine this. You walk into a room and someone speaks to you for just a minute, but in that minute, they capture your full attention. They don't ramble, they don't waste words. And when they're done, you find yourself still thinking about what they said. That person didn't just communicate, they connected. They didn't use 1,000 words to express their point, they used just the right ones. That, my friend, is the power of brevity. Brevity is not about saying as little as possible or rushing through your words. It's about choosing the right words and cutting out everything else that doesn't add to the message you want to get across. It's about knowing that every word you speak has weight. The beauty of brevity is not just in speaking less, it's in saying more with less. You get to the heart of the message faster and more clearly. And when you do that, people will listen. They'll remember. You've probably noticed that in today's world, we're constantly bombarded with information. Everywhere we look, there's more to take in: social media, emails, meetings, phone calls. It feels like there's always something happening around us. With all this noise, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle. But when you communicate with brevity, when you strip away the excess, you stand out. You're not just another voice in the crowd, you're the one who gets heard. It's not a modern thing though. Brevity has always been a tool of effective communication. Look at some of history's most powerful speeches. Many of them are strikingly short, yet they carry massive weight. Think about Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. Just 272 words, but in those words, Lincoln encapsulated everything about the American struggle for freedom, equality, and democracy. He didn't need to say much. He said exactly what needed to be said, and it's still remembered more than a century later. His ability to condense such monumental ideas into a short speech is a perfect example of brevity's power. And then there's Winston Churchill, who during World War II delivered a line so simple, yet so impactful: never was so much owed by so many to so few. In just 9 words, he captured the sacrifice, courage and commitment of the Royal Air Force in their battle against the German Luftwaffe. Those 9 words didn't just convey information, they inspired a nation. They made people feel something deep inside. That's what brevity can do. It can turn simple words into something unforgettable. Then we have Ernest Hemingway, whose writing is famous for its conciseness. One of his best-known pieces, a 6-word story, goes like this: "For sale baby shoes, never worn." 6 words, and yet they evoke such emotion, such a story, that you can't help but think about it. It's a haunting example of how much you can say with so little. Hemingway didn't need to write a full novel to make you feel something. He showed us that when you choose your words wisely, you don't need to say everything to make your point. There's a misconception that brevity is about cutting things short. But it's not about shortening your message. It's about making sure that every word you say adds value. You've probably been in conversations where someone talks for what feels like hours, only to leave you wondering what the point was. And on the flip side, you've probably had conversations where someone said just a few words, and it stuck with you. It made you stop and think. That's the beauty of brevity. When you speak briefly, you force yourself to be clear. You don't have the luxury of filling the space with extra words. Instead, you focus on getting your message across in the most efficient, direct way possible. And when you do that, people can't help but listen. They feel like you're respecting their time, and that creates a connection. You're not asking for their attention. You've already earned it by making every word count. The thing about brevity is that it's not just about cutting down on words. It's about cutting down on the fluff, the filler words that creep into our language. You know, the ones, like you know, basically. These words don't add any value. They're just noise. And the more we use them, the less confident we sound. Instead of filling the silence with empty words, we need to embrace the power of a pause. Silence isn't awkward. It's a tool. When you pause, you give yourself a moment to gather your thoughts and make sure what you say next is meaningful. But it's not just about speech, it's about writing too. When you're writing, it's easy to get caught up in trying to say everything. But when you learn to edit ruthlessly, to cut out the unnecessary, your writing becomes sharper. You get rid of the fluff and leave only the essential. And when your writing is clear and concise, people pay attention. They read every word because they know that each one matters. Imagine if every conversation you had, every email you wrote, every meeting you attended was filled only with what was essential. No more rambling, no more waiting for the other person to stop talking so you could finally get your point across. Just clear, focused communication. Think about how much more effective you would be in every area of your life. This skill isn't just useful for work or public speaking. It can transform your personal relationships too. The beauty of brevity is that it shows respect, not just for the other person's time, but for their attention. When you communicate in a way that's direct and meaningful, you show that you value the other person's time and perspective. And that's how strong, healthy relationships are built, on mutual respect and understanding. But here's the kicker. Learning to say less isn't always easy. We all have that voice inside that tells us we need to fill the silence, or that we need to explain ourselves more, or that we have to be perfect. That fear of not saying enough or not being understood can hold us back. But here's the truth. When you embrace the art of brevity, you give yourself permission to speak with purpose. You don't have to say everything. You just have to say what matters. The more you practice this art, the more it will become second nature. Start small. In your next conversation, try summarizing your thoughts in one sentence before you speak. Challenge yourself to say something meaningful in fewer words. And over time, you'll find that you're not just speaking less, you're speaking more effectively. You'll be able to connect with people in ways you never thought possible. You'll have more confidence, and your message will stick with others long after you've finished speaking. In the end, Brevity is a skill that can change everything. It's not about limiting yourself, it's about learning to communicate with intention. When you do that, you'll find that your words have power, your relationships are stronger, and your life becomes more focused. And isn't that what we all want? To make a bigger impact with the words we say. To be heard, to be remembered. The art of brevity is the key that unlocks that power. Chapter 2. The nature of effective communication. When we think about communication, we often picture it as simply exchanging information, a back and forth where you talk and the other person listens. But if communication were that simple, we wouldn't have so many misunderstandings, miscommunications, and conflicts. It's not just about talking, it's about connecting. Real communication goes beyond the words we speak and taps into how we express ourselves, how we listen, and how we make others feel in the process. Effective communication is more than just sharing information. It's about conveying your thoughts and ideas in a way that resonates with others, leaving them with not just the understanding, but also the emotional connection to what you've shared. It's the difference between simply speaking and truly connecting. And that connection is what makes the conversation effective. Now, let's start by talking about the role of intent in communication. Why do you communicate in the first place? What's your purpose behind the words you speak? Without clarity and intent, your words can lose their power. Think about it. If you're just speaking to fill the silence, or because you feel like you have to say something, it's likely that your message won't hit the mark. You've probably been in conversations where someone spoke just to speak, but you found yourself zoning out. Why? Because there was no real intent behind it. But when you speak with purpose, when you truly know what you want to say and why you're saying it, people pay attention. There's a level of sincerity and authority that comes with speaking with intent, and people can sense that. And let's not forget the power of context. Communication doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's shaped by the situation, the people involved, the setting, and even the timing. You could have the most brilliant idea in the world, but if you deliver it at the wrong time or in the wrong environment, it might not have the desired effect. Context is like the frame that shapes the picture of your message. It guides how your words will be received, how they'll land. It's not just about what you say, but how and when you say it. If you don't understand the context of your conversation, you could miss the mark completely. Have you ever been in a conversation where the timing was off, where the message you wanted to get across just didn't seem to resonate? It's often because the context wasn't right. But what about the impact of concise communication? You might think that to communicate effectively, you have to keep talking, explaining, covering every angle. The truth, though, is that simplicity and clarity have a much greater effect than endless talking. When you learn to focus your words, to cut out the unnecessary details, your message becomes more powerful. People won't tune you out because there's no fluff, no rambling. Instead, they'll lean in because your message is clear and purposeful. And speaking of clarity, one of the key things that make communication effective is how clearly you can express your thoughts. Sometimes we feel the need to over-explain, especially when we're unsure of how our message will be received. But the more we explain, the more we risk confusing the other person. We're just adding more noise, making it harder for the other person to pick out the main idea. Clarity means making sure that what you're saying can be understood without needing a second explanation. It's about simplifying your message so that it's easy to follow and impactful. I think we've all experienced the frustration of talking to someone who seems like they just can't get to the point. The more they talk, the more you start to zone out. It's exhausting, right? In these situations, it's not the quantity of the words that matters, it's the quality. Effective communication isn't about saying more, It's about saying what's necessary and letting everything else go. That's where the magic happens. The clearer you are with your words, the more people will understand and retain your message. And when people understand you, they trust you more. Here's the thing, effective communication isn't just about how well you speak, it's about how well you listen. Have you ever noticed how much more you connect with someone when they're really listening to you? They're not just waiting for their turn to talk, they're actively engaged, absorbing what you're saying, asking thoughtful questions, and responding in a way that makes you feel heard. That's the kind of listener you need to be if you want to communicate effectively. Listening isn't just about hearing the words, it's about understanding the emotion behind them, the intention behind them, and the context. A lot of times we talk over each other because we're more focused on what we're going to say next, rather than truly listening to the person in front of us. But when you listen with intention, when you truly take in what the other person is saying, it makes the conversation much more meaningful. Effective communication is a two-way street. It's not just about speaking clearly, but also about absorbing what others are saying and responding thoughtfully. This is where many conversations fall apart, when we get so caught up in making our point that we forget to hear the other person. The next time you're in a conversation, try to be present in the moment. Focus on what the other person is saying, not just on how you'll respond. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but the more you practice active listening, the more natural it will become, and the more powerful your conversations will be. Now let's talk about the psychological impact of communication. When we communicate effectively, it does more than just convey information, it affects how people feel. Think about how you felt when someone speaks to you with clarity and intention. It makes you feel valued, right? You don't feel like you're just another person on the other end of the conversation. You feel like the person is speaking directly to you, respecting your time and attention. Effective communication fosters trust, connection and respect. It makes people feel heard and understood, and that's the foundation of any successful relationship, whether personal or professional. On the flip side, when communication is unclear, people can feel frustrated, disconnected, or even dismissed. When we ramble or fail to listen, it can create a barrier between us and the people we're trying to connect with. And that's why clarity and active listening are so critical. They break down that barrier and create a genuine connection. Effective communication is also about being mindful of how your message is being received. It's one thing to say something, but it's another to make sure it's being understood the way you intended. That's where feedback comes into play. A lot of times we're so focused on getting our message across that we forget to check if the other person is actually hearing us. But the more we pay attention to their reactions, both verbal and non-verbal, the more we can adjust and fine-tune our message to make sure it resonates. When you communicate with purpose, clarity and intention, you create an environment where people feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and ideas. That's how trust is built. That's how relationships grow. And that's how you become a truly effective communicator, by understanding that communication isn't just about talking, it's about connecting on a deeper level. At the end of the day, effective communication is about creating a space where ideas, feelings and thoughts can flow freely between you and the people around you. It's about being clear, being intentional, and just as importantly, being present. When you master these elements, you'll find that every conversation you have, whether personal or professional, becomes an opportunity to make a lasting impact. And that's the true power of communication. Chapter 3: Clarity, the foundation of impactful speech. Clarity is the foundation of impactful communication. Without it, your message can become lost in a sea of confusion, and all the effort you put into crafting your words can fall flat. Think about times when you've tried to explain something important to someone, but found that no matter how hard you tried, they just weren't getting it. Frustrating, right? That's what happens when clarity is missing. But when your message is clear, when your words are sharp, focused, and easy to understand, the connection is immediate. People get it, they respond, and you feel heard, like your voice matters. When you communicate clearly, you not only make it easier for others to understand you, but you also make it easier for yourself to convey exactly what you want to say. The key to clarity is simplicity. That's the trick, simplifying your message so that it's easy to grasp, without oversimplifying it to the point where it loses its meaning. It's about stripping away the fluff, the unnecessary details, and getting straight to the heart of the matter. But simplicity doesn't mean dumbing things down. It means making your message accessible without compromising on the depth of what you're trying to convey. It's like when you're explaining a complicated concept to a friend. If you overwhelm them with jargon or go off on tangents, they're going to get lost. But if you take the time to break it down in a way that makes sense to them, using words they can understand, suddenly everything clicks. That's clarity at work. It's about knowing your audience, understanding their level of knowledge, and then speaking to them in a way that resonates. The beauty of clarity is that it doesn't require you to talk more. In fact, the more you simplify and focus your message, the more powerful it becomes. Think about the most memorable speeches in history. Martin Luther King Jr., "I Have a Dream" speech is a great example. It wasn't long or filled with unnecessary words. It was clear, straightforward, and passionate. He didn't need to say much to make a lasting impact. And that's the power of clarity. It allows you to cut through the noise and make your message stand out. But achieving clarity isn't always easy. We often fall into the trap of over-explaining, especially when we feel like we need to justify our ideas or thoughts. We think that if we just keep talking, we'll eventually get to the point. But the truth is, the more we explain, the more we risk diluting our message. You've probably been in conversations where someone just couldn't stop talking, trying to make their point clear, but it ended up being more confusing. That's what over-explaining does. It creates unnecessary noise that distracts from the core message. So how do you avoid falling into that trap? The first step is to focus on the main point. Ask yourself, what is the most important thing I want the other person to take away from this conversation? What's the key message I'm trying to communicate? Once you know that, everything else becomes secondary. You don't need to add unnecessary details or explanations. Just say what needs to be said and stop. Don't overdo it. The more concise you are, the clearer your message will be. Another common pitfall in communication is jargon. We've all heard it, those words or phrases that sound impressive but don't really add anything of value to the conversation. Jargon can be a barrier to clarity, especially when you're talking to someone who isn't familiar with the terms you're using. It's easy to fall into the trap of using technical language or industry-specific terms, thinking that it makes us sound more knowledgeable. But in reality, it often just confuses the other person. If you want to be clear, avoid jargon as much as possible. Use simple, everyday language that anyone can understand. Don't assume your audience knows the lingo. Make it easy for them to follow. Over-explaining and jargon aren't the only things that can muddy your message. Ambiguity is another major hurdle to clarity. When you speak in vague or unclear terms, it leaves room for misunderstanding. If you've ever been in a conversation where you weren't sure if the other person was agreeing with you or just nodding to be polite, you know how frustrating that can be. Ambiguity creates confusion and makes it harder for people to connect with what you're saying. To avoid this, be specific in your language. Don't leave things open to interpretation. The clearer you are, the less room there is for misunderstanding. The power of clarity isn't just in the words you choose, it's also in how you organize your thoughts before you speak. A clear message starts with clear thinking. Before you speak, take a moment to gather your thoughts. What exactly do you want to say? How can you break it down in the simplest way possible? Organizing your thoughts ahead of time helps you stay focused and avoid rambling. It ensures that your message has a clear beginning, middle, and end, making it easier for others to follow. But clarity isn't just about words. It's also about how you deliver them. Your tone, body language, and even the pauses you take can all contribute to how clear your message is. If you say something with confidence and conviction, it becomes clearer because you're showing that you believe in what you're saying. On the other hand, if you say something hesitantly or without conviction, it can create doubt, even if the words themselves are clear. Your delivery plays a huge role in how your message is received. When you speak with purpose and confidence, your clarity shines through. Sometimes, people shy away from being clear because they worry about being too direct or too blunt. But there's a difference between being clear and being rude. You don't need to soften your message unnecessarily or dance around the truth to spare someone's feelings. Being clear doesn't mean being harsh. It means being honest and straightforward while still being respectful. People appreciate clarity even when the message isn't what they want to hear. The key is to be direct without being disrespectful, to communicate your point without sugarcoating it, but also without being insensitive. In relationships, whether personal or professional, clarity is one of the most important elements of communication. When you're clear, you build trust because people know exactly where you stand. There's no guessing, no second guessing, no wondering what you really mean. And when trust is built, the connection between you and the other person deepens. Clarity brings people together because it removes barriers and fosters understanding. It's the foundation of strong, meaningful relationships. There's also a sense of freedom that comes with clarity. When you speak clearly, you don't feel the need to hide behind words or explanations. You don't have to worry about being misunderstood or misinterpreted. You can speak your truth and trust that the people you're communicating with will understand you. That freedom allows you to be more confident in your conversations, to express yourself without fear, and to connect with others on a deeper level. At the end of the day, clarity is about stripping away all the noise and getting to the heart of what you want to say. It's about cutting through the clutter and speaking in a way that resonates. When you communicate with clarity, you create a space where understanding flows easily, where people can connect with your message without distractions. And that's the power of clear communication. It transforms how we interact with the world around us, and it leaves a lasting impact on everyone we speak to. Chapter 4. The Power of Pauses. We often overlook the power of silence. In conversations, meetings, presentations, and even personal exchanges, we tend to fill every moment with words. We think that silence makes us uncomfortable or might even make us appear unsure. But in reality, silence is one of the most powerful tools we have in communication. It's not just the absence of sound, it's an intentional pause that gives both you and your audience space to reflect, absorb, and process. Think about the last time you were in a conversation where someone paused before responding. It might have felt like a slight moment of discomfort, but did you also notice how it made their words more deliberate and impactful when they did speak? That pause had weight, didn't it? It allowed them to gather their thoughts, to make sure they were saying exactly what needed to be said. It made you listen more attentively. Silence does that. It demands attention, it gives people room to think, and it makes what follows that much more powerful. The beauty of a well-timed pause is that it works on so many levels. First, it shows that you are in control of the conversation. When you pause, you're not rushing to fill the space. You're taking your time, And that confidence, yes, confidence, becomes evident. The message you're delivering doesn't just rely on words, it relies on how you make others feel when they hear those words. And when you're deliberate about using silence, you increase the chances that what you say next will be received with more attention and impact. Pauses are incredibly effective in conversations because they allow both parties to truly listen. When you speak without giving the other person a chance to respond or reflect, it can feel like you're speaking at them, not with them. But when you create space for pauses, the other person is encouraged to share their thoughts, ask questions, or offer their own perspective. Communication then becomes a two-way street, rather than a one-way monologue. The impact of silence doesn't stop there. It can also enhance your ability to listen actively. How often do we listen just enough to respond, rather than listen to truly understand? We're often so focused on what we're going to say next, that we don't give ourselves time to really take in what the other person is saying. When you embrace pauses in conversation, you allow yourself time to truly hear the other person, to consider their words carefully before responding. This not only improves your communication, but also builds deeper connections. People feel valued when you take the time to listen, not just to hear their words, but to understand the intent behind them. In the context of public speaking or presentations, pauses are equally powerful. If you've ever heard a speaker pause after delivering an important point, you likely noticed how the silence filled the room. That pause created a space where the message could settle in. It wasn't just about the words, it was about allowing the message to resonate, giving the audience time to absorb it. Pausing after a key statement gives people time to reflect on what was just said, making it more likely that the message will stick with them. One of the most effective uses of silence is in moments of emotion. When we speak about something important or deeply personal, we can often find ourselves struggling to articulate the depth of our feelings. In those moments, words sometimes fall short, but silence, when used correctly, can help convey emotion far more powerfully than any words could. Think of the speeches or stories that have moved you to tears. Often it's not just the content of the speech, but the delivery, those moments of silence where the speaker takes a breath, allowing the emotion to build and fill the space before continuing. Those pauses create a sense of anticipation, a sense of weight. It's in those moments that the true impact of the message is felt. Silence is also incredibly effective in conflict resolution. In tense conversations, especially when emotions are running high, it can be easy to speak over each other or try to win the conversation. But when you allow space for silence, it forces everyone to take a step back. It gives people the opportunity to calm down, think more clearly, and choose their words more carefully. Pausing during a disagreement doesn't mean avoiding the conversation or shying away from conflict. It means you're choosing to handle the situation with thoughtfulness and respect. You're giving yourself and the other person time to cool off, collect your thoughts, and come to a resolution with a clearer mind. In a practical sense, incorporating pauses into your conversations can be as simple as counting to 3 before responding. It's a small but powerful change that can make a big difference. By taking those extra moments, you give yourself time to consider your response rather than reacting impulsively. That moment of stillness allows you to speak from a place of clarity, not emotion, which can help you communicate more effectively and avoid misunderstandings. It might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to speaking quickly or feeling pressured to fill every moment with words. But with practice, those pauses will feel natural, and you'll begin to see the power of silence in your communication. The key to using silence effectively is being intentional. A pause isn't just an empty gap, It's a powerful tool that can enhance the message you're delivering. It can emphasize a point, invite reflection, or simply give both you and the listener the space to breathe. Silence allows you to speak with more purpose because it forces you to slow down, to be mindful of what you're saying, and to consider the impact of your words before they leave your mouth. And let's not forget the impact of silence in our daily interactions. In a world that's constantly rushing, constantly talking, silence offers a refreshing change. Think about how different your relationships might feel if you didn't rush to fill every gap in the conversation. If you allowed moments of silence to exist without feeling the need to constantly speak, what might that look like? It might feel awkward at first, but it can also create a deeper connection. You can communicate not just through your words, but through the understanding that exists in the pauses, the moments when neither of you is speaking, but both of you are still present. Ultimately, silence is a tool that allows you to communicate with greater depth. It doesn't weaken your message, it strengthens it. By embracing the power of pauses, you can create space for your message to be heard, for your emotions to be felt, and for true understanding to emerge. The next time you find yourself speaking, whether in a conversation or a presentation, consider how a simple pause can enhance what you're trying to say. Don't be afraid of silence. Embrace it. In that stillness, you'll find the power to speak with more purpose, more clarity, and more impact. Chapter 5. Listening. The other half of communication. Listening. It sounds simple, doesn't it? We all think we're pretty good at it. After all, we hear people every day. But true listening, the kind that transforms relationships, opens doors and deepens understanding, is something many of us overlook. We're often so busy thinking about what we're going to say next or planning our response that we forget to fully absorb what the other person is saying. This is the kind of listening that truly makes a difference, the kind that shows the other person they're valued, understood, and respected. You've probably had the experience where someone says something, and while you were physically present, your mind was somewhere else. Maybe you were thinking about your own thoughts, or perhaps you were already preparing your reply. We all do it. But here's the thing, people can tell when you're not really listening. It's subtle, but it's there. And it affects the quality of our communication. The best communicators, the ones who make a lasting impact, are the ones who listen actively. They don't just hear words, they listen to the emotion behind them, the intent and the nuances that often go unsaid. Active listening is a skill. It's not something you can just do instinctively. It takes practice and intention. But when you master it, your ability to connect with others, to understand their needs, and to communicate more effectively will soar. You'll find that people open up to you more easily. They feel heard. And when people feel heard, they trust you more. This trust, this deeper connection, becomes the foundation of better relationships, both personal and professional. One of the most powerful aspects of active listening is that it allows us to truly understand another person's perspective. Think about the last time you had a conversation with someone where you felt fully heard. How did it make you feel? Understood, validated, important. Now think about a time when you spoke, but the other person wasn't really listening. Maybe they were distracted or thinking about something else. Did you feel like your words mattered? Probably not. True listening opens the door for empathy. It allows us to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, to see the world through their eyes, even if for just a moment. But to listen well, we have to be present. This is where many of us falter. We're often distracted by our phones, by the next task on our to-do list, by our own internal chatter. The key to truly listening is to quiet all those distractions and focus fully on the person speaking. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say, but it means you're giving them the space to express themselves without judgment, interruption, or distraction. You're fully engaged in the moment. Your attention is undivided, and this focus is what makes a huge difference. Think of it this way. The best listeners are the ones who are genuinely curious. They want to understand, not just respond. They ask thoughtful questions, reflect on what's been said, and make the other person feel like their words matter. It's not just about hearing their words, it's about understanding the emotion behind them. It's about picking up on the tone of voice, the body language, and the small cues that can often say more than words themselves. When you listen actively, you also create space for meaningful conversations. It's easy to get caught up in the rush of daily life, to skim the surface of our interactions, and to skip over the deeper, more important conversations. But the best relationships, whether in the workplace, with friends, or with family, are built on those deeper conversations. They happen when both parties are fully engaged, when both are genuinely interested in what the other has to say. By listening actively, you're not just strengthening your communication skills, you're also fostering deeper connections. Listening can also help you respond more effectively. When you truly understand what the other person is saying, you're better equipped to offer a thoughtful, relevant response. This is especially important in professional settings, where clear communication can make or break a deal, a project, or a relationship. When you listen first and respond second, you show that you value the other person's input and that you're invested in finding the best solution together. This approach builds trust and encourages collaboration. Now, you might be thinking, I already listen, but sometimes people just don't seem to get what I'm saying. And that's true. Listening is only part of the equation. It's important to recognize that effective communication involves both speaking and listening. You can be the best listener in the world, but if you're not expressing yourself clearly, your message might still get lost. But let's not lose sight of the importance of listening, because without it, any response you give will likely fall flat. When you listen, you're also practicing patience. In a world where we expect instant gratification, patience is a rare skill. People are more likely to open up to you when they sense that you're willing to take your time to really hear them. Patience in listening means you're not rushing to fill the silence or to respond quickly. You're giving them the space they need to articulate their thoughts fully, without interruption. This shows respect and helps build stronger, more meaningful conversations. And let's not forget about body language. While listening involves paying attention to the words being said, it's just as much about how you're physically engaging with the speaker. Are you making eye contact? Are you nodding to show that you're following along? Are you leaning in slightly to signal interest? These non-verbal cues speak volumes about your attentiveness and engagement. In fact, research shows that much of communication is non-verbal. So when you listen, make sure your body language is in alignment with your intention. Show the other person that you're there, that you care, and that they have your full attention. Another important part of listening is validating what's been said. Sometimes people just need to know that their thoughts or feelings are acknowledged. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say, but it does mean that you're recognizing their perspective. A simple "I understand what you're saying," or "that must be really tough," can go a long way in making someone feel heard. Validation builds rapport and encourages further conversation. So how do you improve your listening skills? It starts with making a conscious effort to be present. Put away distractions, your phone, your to-do list, anything that pulls your attention away from the conversation. Focus on the speaker, not on what you want to say next. Ask open-ended questions to encourage them to elaborate. Reflect back what they've said to show you're paying attention. And most importantly, listen with empathy and without judgment. Give them the space to express themselves fully, without interrupting or trying to fix things right away. When you master the art of listening, something incredible happens. Your communication becomes more effective, your relationships grow stronger, and you start to notice the world in a new way. You become more attuned to the emotions and needs of others, and you develop a deeper sense of connection and understanding. People will appreciate your presence in their lives because they'll feel truly heard. And that's one of the greatest gifts you can offer, both to others and to yourself. Chapter 6. Body language. Saying more with less. We often hear that communication is more than just words, and when it comes to truly effective communication, nothing could be more accurate. Think about the last time you had a conversation with someone. Sure, the words were important, but how much did their body language shape how you felt about what they were saying? How much did their posture, their eye contact, or even their gestures influence the message they were trying to convey? More than we might realize, body language plays a huge role in how we communicate and how our messages are received. When we speak, our words are only part of the story. Our body language, how we stand, how we move, the expressions on our faces, the gestures we make, tells the other person a lot about how we feel, what we're thinking, and how confident we are in what we're saying. It adds layers to our communication. A simple gesture, like nodding along or using hand movements to emphasize a point, can make what we're saying come across with more sincerity, urgency, or warmth. But here's the thing, many of us don't pay enough attention to this unspoken part of communication. We focus so much on what we're saying that we forget how much our body is saying too. And the reality is that people are constantly reading these cues, even when we're not consciously aware of them. If you're not mindful of your body language, it can lead to miscommunication, misunderstandings, and even create barriers between you and others. For instance, have you ever spoken to someone who was crossing their arms the whole time? Maybe they seemed defensive or disengaged, even though their words told you they were interested. You might not have consciously noticed it, but that body posture likely made you feel like they weren't really listening or open to what you were saying. Now, think about how you feel when someone leans in toward you, makes consistent eye contact, and nods along while you talk. Doesn't it make you feel heard? Doesn't it make you feel more connected to them? Body language has that power. One of the most important things to understand about body language is that it's not just about using the right gestures or poses, it's about alignment. Alignment between your words and your body language is what truly makes communication effective. If your words and your body are saying different things, the person you're communicating with is going to pick up on that, even if they don't consciously know it. For example, imagine you're saying, "I'm really excited about this opportunity," but your arms are crossed and your tone is flat. There's a disconnect between what you're saying and how your body is expressing it. The person you're speaking to might think, if they're excited, why does their body look like they're shutting down? This inconsistency creates confusion, and suddenly your message loses its impact. The key to powerful communication is making sure your body language matches the message you're trying to convey. If you're excited about something, show it. Let your energy flow into your gestures, your posture, and your facial expressions. If you're trying to convey warmth and openness, make eye contact, smile, and keep your body relaxed and open. When your body language supports your words, you come across as authentic, confident, and trustworthy. People are naturally drawn to that. One of the best ways to become more aware of your body language is to start paying attention to others. Watch how people around you communicate. Notice how they stand when they're talking, how they use their hands, what their faces look like when they're listening or speaking. You'll start to see the subtle ways body language enhances communication, and you'll begin to realize just how much of an impact it has on the messages being delivered. Another important aspect of body language is that it's not just about what we consciously do, it's also about the signals we unconsciously send. For example, when we're nervous, we might fidget, avoid eye contact, or even speak too quickly. These are all signs that, whether we intend to or not, communicate anxiety, uncertainty, or a lack of confidence. Conversely, when we feel secure, we tend to have more relaxed body language. Our posture is open, we make steady eye contact, and we communicate our thoughts clearly. It's essential to recognize how these unconscious signals can affect how others perceive us. By becoming more aware of our own body language, we can take control of the way we present ourselves and ensure that we're communicating exactly what we want to communicate. And let's not forget that body language isn't limited to face-to-face conversations. Think about the way we communicate through technology, through text messages, emails, or even video calls. Even though we can't physically see the other person's body language in these situations, there are still cues we can give. For instance, punctuation, the tone of our words, and the way we structure our sentences can all convey different emotions and intentions. In a video call, your posture and gestures still come into play, even if you're not in the same room. A smile, a nod, or a relaxed posture can still make a huge difference in how your message is received. The more we can align our verbal and non-verbal communication, no matter the platform, the more effective we become as communicators. Another powerful tool in body language is silence. We often overlook the impact of non-verbal cues that come from stillness. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do in a conversation is to pause, to just sit there with your thoughts and listen. You don't have to fill every moment with words or actions. A well-timed pause can create tension, allow the other person to reflect, or give you time to think. Pausing in a conversation can also signal that you're not just waiting for your turn to speak, but that you're taking the time to process and truly consider what's being said. It can be a sign of respect and attentiveness. Now, if you really want to take your communication to the next level, start practicing these principles intentionally. Pay attention to your posture, your gestures, your eye contact, and how these things align with your words. But don't just focus on yourself. Observe the people around you too. Notice the subtle signals they send, both consciously and unconsciously, and see how that affects your perception of them. The good news is that body language can be improved with practice. You don't need to make massive changes overnight, but small shifts can make a big difference. Start with something simple, like being more mindful of your posture or practicing making steady eye contact. Over time, you'll find that your communication feels more natural and your confidence increases. Ultimately, the power of body language lies in its ability to help you connect with others in a deeper, more authentic way. When you're aware of how your body is communicating, and when you align that with what you're saying, you begin to create an experience for the other person that's meaningful and impactful. People will feel your sincerity, your confidence, and your willingness to connect. And that's a message that will last long after the conversation ends. Chapter 7. Structuring your message for impact. When you step into a conversation or a meeting, you might think about what you want to say, but how often do you stop to think about how you want to structure it? How often do you pause to consider not just the words, but the way you'll arrange them, the way you'll present your ideas to make sure they land with impact? The structure of your message is more important than you might realize. It's the foundation that holds everything together. Without it, even the best ideas can get lost, or worse, misunderstood. When we communicate, whether in a personal or professional setting, it's so easy to get caught up in the flood of thoughts running through our minds. We often try to say everything at once, too much detail, too many ideas, and before we know it, we're overwhelmed with the amount of information we've just thrown at the other person. This can create confusion, frustration, and a lack of clarity. It's like trying to navigate a maze without a map. You might eventually find your way, but it's going to take longer, and you'll probably get lost along the way. So what's the solution? The answer lies in how you organize your thoughts before you speak. Structuring your message is one of the simplest yet most effective ways to make sure your communication is clear, compelling, and memorable. When you structure your message thoughtfully, you make it easier for your audience to follow, engage with, and remember your words. You show respect for their time and attention, and you set yourself up for success in a way that makes you more confident in the process. Now, let's talk about the core principle of structuring a message: simplicity. This is not about dumbing down what you're saying, but rather about organizing it in a way that allows the listener to grasp your point with ease. You want to make sure that your audience can follow your line of thinking without feeling like they're trying to catch up or piece together a jigsaw puzzle. One effective method to do this is something called the pyramid principle. It's a strategy for organizing your thoughts by leading with the main idea and then breaking it down into supporting details. Think of it like the structure of a well-written essay. You start with the most important information, and then everything else builds on that. This way, your audience can immediately understand the core of your message and then get the supporting details as needed. It's direct, efficient, and powerful. For example, if you're in a meeting and you're asked to provide an update on a project, instead of rambling on about every single task and minute detail, start with the main takeaway: we're on track to meet our deadline. That's the headline. It's the essential point you want your audience to remember. Once that's established, you can follow up with supporting details. We've completed the first phase of the project, and the next phase is on schedule. This way, even if someone tunes in halfway through, they immediately understand the key point and can then decide if they want to dive deeper into the details. This method is effective because it respects the listener's time and attention. In today's fast-paced world, people are more likely to absorb information if it's presented succinctly and logically. When you organize your thoughts in a structured way, it allows the listener to easily connect the dots, and they're more likely to remember your message later on. Another strategy you can use is the 3 points rule. We tend to remember things better when they come in threes. This is why many speakers, leaders, and writers stick to 3 key points when delivering a message. There's something about the number 3 that feels complete and easy to digest. It's simple and powerful. When you're crafting your message, try to limit it to 3 core points. This helps you avoid overwhelming your listener with too much information and keeps the message focused. Let's say you're giving a presentation at work and you want to outline the benefits of a new initiative. Instead of listing off a dozen reasons why it's a good idea, narrow it down to 3 key benefits. You might say, this new initiative will help us improve efficiency, increase customer satisfaction, and reduce costs. You've made your message clear and concise, and the listener can walk away remembering those 3 essential benefits without getting lost in the weeds. But structuring your message isn't just about cutting down on the amount of information. It's also about making sure that information flows logically. Think about the way you tell a story. Every good story has a beginning, middle, and end, right? The same principle applies to communication. Your audience needs a roadmap to follow, and the structure you provide is that roadmap. If you skip ahead or jump around, you risk losing them. You need to give your message in a way that makes sense, that builds on itself, and that leaves your listener with a clear takeaway. One of the best ways to ensure your message has a logical flow is to use storytelling. Humans are wired to understand and connect with stories. We remember stories far better than we remember dry facts or statistics. So when you're communicating, think about how you can weave your message into a narrative. Stories have the power to engage, to make complex ideas more relatable, and to make your message stick. For example, let's say you're explaining a new process at work. Instead of simply laying out the steps one by one, you could frame it as a story. Imagine you're a new team member who has to get up to speed quickly. On your first day, you're given a simple guide that shows you how to do everything. First, you'll learn how to log into the system. Then you'll be introduced to the main dashboard. And finally, you'll be able to create your first report. By the end of the first week, you'll be fully trained and ready to contribute. This approach takes your listener on a journey, and by the end they'll have a much clearer understanding of the process. The beauty of using stories to structure your message is that it makes the information more memorable. People may not remember the exact steps you outlined, but they will remember the story you told and the key points within it. This is a powerful way to ensure your message sticks. There's also a practical side to structuring your message. Editing. Once you've decided on your main points and how to present them, take the time to go back and refine your message. Remove any unnecessary details. Be ruthless with yourself. If something doesn't add to the clarity or impact of your message, cut it out. This doesn't mean stripping away your personality or creativity, but rather ensuring that every word you speak or write serves a clear purpose. The goal is to keep things focused so that your message doesn't get buried under a mountain of extraneous information. Think about it. When you're clear, when your message is structured logically, and when you know exactly what you want your audience to take away from the conversation, you set yourself up for success. You make it easier for others to engage with your message, to understand your point of view, and to walk away feeling like they've learned something valuable. Remember, structuring your message isn't about overthinking it or making it more complicated than it needs to be. It's about clarity. It's about making sure that your listener or reader understands exactly what you want them to know without feeling overwhelmed by too many details. It's about taking control of how your message is received and giving it the best chance to make the impact you intend. When you take the time to structure your message thoughtfully, you demonstrate a deep respect for the person you're communicating with. You're saying, "I value your time. I want to make sure that you hear my message in the way that's most impactful for you." That kind of intentional communication has the power to change the way people perceive you, the way they listen to you, and the way they respond to you. And that's how you become a truly effective communicator, by speaking with purpose, clarity, and impact. Chapter 8. The value of feedback. There's a saying that feedback is a gift, but how many of us actually treat it like that? How many of us cringe at the thought of someone telling us what we could have done better? Most people, if we're being honest, would rather avoid it altogether. The problem is, if we're not open to feedback, we're closing the door on one of the most powerful tools for personal and professional growth. It's easy to look at feedback as criticism, but that's not what it is at all. If you start seeing it as a gift instead, it can be a game changer for your communication skills, your career, and your personal development. Feedback has the power to highlight blind spots, reveal things you didn't even realize about your communication style, and offer actionable insights that can take you to the next level. But you have to be willing to accept it. More importantly, you have to learn how to use it to improve. And I get it. It's tough. It's uncomfortable. But if you want to master the art of saying less and communicating with purpose, feedback isn't just helpful, it's essential. Think about the last time someone gave you feedback. Maybe it was on a project you worked on, or it was in a conversation you had. How did you respond? Did you immediately get defensive, or did you listen carefully to what was being said? If you got defensive, you're not alone. It's a natural reaction. But here's the thing, that defensive reaction is exactly what holds you back from improving. When you're defensive, you're focused on protecting yourself rather than understanding what the other person is trying to tell you. And when you do that, you miss out on the opportunity to grow. But what if, instead of reacting defensively, you approached feedback with curiosity? What if you treated it like a treasure trove of information that could help you become better, not just in your communication, but in every aspect of your life? It's all about shifting your mindset. Instead of seeing feedback as an attack, try to see it as a chance to reflect and improve. The first step in receiving feedback effectively is to listen. I mean, really listen. Don't interrupt. Don't try to justify yourself. Don't think about your response while the other person is talking. Just listen. This might sound simple, but it's harder than you think. Our brains are wired to react, to think about how we're going to respond, but the best communicators know that listening is the foundation of everything else. And listening doesn't just mean hearing words, it means understanding the message behind those words, absorbing the emotions, and recognizing the intention behind the feedback. When you listen with intent, you can absorb the full weight of the feedback. You can begin to see things from the other person's perspective, which is crucial for personal growth. If someone tells you that you tend to ramble in conversations, for example, instead of brushing it off, really ask yourself if that's true. Do you talk too much without realizing it? Have you noticed people tuning out when you speak? These are the kinds of insights you can get when you take the time to listen and reflect. And it's not just about listening, it's also about seeking out feedback. Too often, we wait for feedback to come to us, assuming that if something's wrong, someone will tell us. But here's the thing, not everyone is going to offer feedback, especially if you don't ask for it. People don't always feel comfortable giving it, or they might assume you don't want it. But if you want to grow, if you want to improve, you have to be proactive about asking for feedback. Whether it's from a colleague, a mentor, or even a friend, asking for feedback shows that you're committed to improvement. It shows that you care about becoming better at what you do, and it opens the door for others to help you get there. When you ask for feedback, be specific about what you want to hear. Instead of asking, "How did I do?" ask something like, "What can I do to improve my communication in meetings?" Or, "Do you think I'm getting my point across effectively?" This gives the other person clear direction and makes it easier for them to give you actionable advice. People are more likely to give useful feedback when they know exactly what you're looking for. And when you receive that feedback, remember to be grateful, not defensive. Even if the feedback stings, it's valuable. It's an opportunity for you to improve, and you can't take that for granted. Once you've received feedback, it's time to take action. This is where a lot of people fall short. They hear the feedback, they nod, and then they forget about it. Or worse, they get defensive and do nothing with it. The real magic happens when you take the feedback and use it to make a change. If someone tells you that you talk too fast in meetings, make a conscious effort to slow down next time. If they mention that you don't always clarify your points, practice being clearer and more concise in future conversations. It might take time, but the more you consciously apply the feedback, the more natural it will become. One of the most powerful ways to internalize feedback is to reflect on it. After you've had a conversation, take a moment to think about what you could have done differently. Did you interrupt too much? Did you ramble on without getting to the point? Write down your thoughts and think about what you could have changed. Then, in your next conversation, make a conscious effort to improve. This kind of self-reflection will accelerate your growth as a communicator and make feedback an even more powerful tool for change. Another aspect of feedback that's often overlooked is the feedback you give to others. Giving feedback isn't just about pointing out what someone else could improve. It's about helping them grow, just like you want to grow. When you offer feedback, make sure it's constructive. Focus on what the person can do better and offer practical suggestions for improvement. Remember, feedback is about helping others become better, not tearing them down. If you approach it with that mindset, you'll not only become a better communicator yourself, but you'll also help others become better communicators too. Lastly, remember that feedback is a process, not a one-time event. It's something you need to seek out and apply continually. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. As you get better at accepting and applying feedback, you'll find that your communication improves dramatically. You'll become more confident, more clear, and more effective in how you interact with others. And the best part, you'll start to see the impact of your improved communication in all areas of your life. Whether you're speaking with colleagues, clients, or friends, you'll notice how much stronger your connections become when you communicate with purpose and clarity. Feedback is the key to growth. If you embrace it, if you listen with an open mind and use it to improve, you'll find yourself becoming a more impactful communicator. And that in turn will help you create stronger relationships, achieve your goals, and ultimately live a more successful and fulfilling life. So next time someone gives you feedback, don't run from it. Lean into it, learn from it, and use it as the stepping stone it is to becoming the best communicator you can be. Chapter 9. Eliminating fillers and fluff. There's a habit many of us fall into, whether we realize it or not, and it's one that can quietly sabotage our ability to communicate effectively. Using filler words. They're those little crutches we lean on when we don't have an answer ready, or when we're buying time to organize our thoughts. Words like basically, and actually slip into our conversations without us even thinking about it. It's almost as if they've become a default part of our speech. And while they may seem harmless, they actually undermine the clarity and impact of what we're trying to say. Imagine you're giving a presentation or having an important conversation. You want to get your point across, but every time you speak, your message gets bogged down with unnecessary fillers. The audience, whether consciously or subconsciously, starts to focus more on your speech patterns than on the substance of what you're saying. They might even start to wonder if you know what you're talking about, just because you're relying on words that signal uncertainty. The first step in eliminating fillers is simply recognizing them. And let me tell you, it can be eye-opening. For most people, these words are so ingrained in their speech that they don't even notice they're saying them. It's only when you actively listen to yourself or get feedback from someone else that you start to realize how often they pop up. You might find yourself saying before almost every sentence or like every other word. It's embarrassing at first, but it's a necessary step to breaking the habit. Once you've noticed the fillers, the next step is to replace them with something else. That something else is silence. Now I know silence might sound intimidating, especially if you've spent your life filling pauses with unnecessary words. But trust me when I say that silence can be incredibly powerful. Think about the most impactful speakers you've heard. Chances are, they didn't rush through their words. They took their time, and when they paused, the silence created a sense of anticipation. It made the audience listen more closely, giving every word extra weight. You can do the same by simply pausing before you speak. When you replace a filler with a pause, you give yourself the space to think and to deliver your message more intentionally. It forces you to be more present and focused. Instead of relying on or like to fill the gap, you'll take a moment to gather your thoughts, and in doing so, your speech will become more deliberate and confident. And here's the thing, people will notice. They'll start paying more attention to what you say because your words will have substance. You'll sound more confident and composed, and you'll have their full attention rather than having them distracted by the crutches you've been relying on. But replacing fillers with silence isn't just about giving yourself time to think. It's also about changing your mindset around communication. You have to let go of the fear of silence. Many of us are uncomfortable with pauses because we associate them with awkwardness. We fear that if there's a gap in conversation, people will think we don't know what we're talking about or that we're nervous. But in reality, silence conveys thoughtfulness and control. It shows that you're not rushing to fill the space with empty words. You're thinking, and thinking deeply. Now, this doesn't mean you should freeze up and leave long, awkward silences. It means that instead of filling every pause with or like, you simply take a breath, collect your thoughts, and continue. The more you practice this, the more natural it will feel. And over time, you'll find that you're speaking with more purpose, and your messages will be clearer and more compelling. The key to eliminating fillers is consistency. Just like any habit, it takes time and practice to replace old patterns with new ones. So start small. In your daily conversations, pay attention to how often you use fillers. When you catch yourself, pause instead of reaching for that crutch. You can even do this in casual conversations with friends or family. These are low-pressure situations where you can practice without the fear of judgment. Another strategy is to record yourself. If you're preparing for a speech, a presentation, or an important conversation, record yourself practicing. Listening to your own voice will give you a clearer sense of how often you rely on fillers. It can be uncomfortable to hear your own voice, but it's a valuable learning tool. Once you identify the fillers, you can work to replace them with silence in your practice sessions. You'll be surprised at how much more natural your speech sounds once you've cut out the unnecessary words. And let's not forget the power of being intentional with your words. When you say less, but you say it with purpose, your communication becomes more impactful. Every word counts. Imagine if you took a moment to think carefully about each thing you said, whether you're responding to an email, having a conversation, or making a presentation. You'd eliminate the clutter, and your message would be stronger, sharper, and easier for others to understand. Your listeners won't have to sift through unnecessary words to find your point. They'll get your message right away. It's not just about eliminating fillers in speech. It's about becoming more intentional with every form of communication. In writing, for example, filler words are just as damaging. Phrases like, "at this point in time," "in my opinion," or "it's important to note," can cloud your message and make your writing feel bloated. When you write, aim for simplicity and directness. Eliminate anything that doesn't serve your purpose. It's not about writing less, it's about writing more effectively. The goal here is not to make you feel bad for using fillers. It's not about judging yourself for a habit we've all picked up. The goal is to show you how much more powerful your words can be once you strip away the unnecessary. When you speak with clarity and purpose, people will listen, they'll remember what you said, and they'll respect you more for the thoughtfulness and control you bring to your communication. You'll find that the more you eliminate fillers, the more confident you become in expressing yourself. And that confidence will spread into all areas of your life, from personal relationships to professional success. So give it a try. The next time you catch yourself using a filler word, pause, take a deep breath, gather your thoughts, and speak with intention. Over time, you'll notice a shift in the way you communicate. You'll feel more confident, your message will be clearer, and you'll start to see the difference it makes in your relationships, your career, and your overall success. You've got the power to communicate with purpose. It's time to say less, but say it with more impact. Chapter 10. Tailoring your message for your audience. When it comes to communication, one of the most powerful things you can do is understand your audience. You might think that the message you have is the most important part of any conversation, but if you aren't considering who you're speaking to, your words might fall flat. It's easy to get caught up in what you want to say, but the truth is, communication is about connecting. It's about understanding where the other person is coming from, what they care about, and how they prefer to hear things. Tailoring your message for your audience isn't just a strategy, it's a necessity if you want your communication to be truly impactful. Think about the last time you had a conversation with someone and realized halfway through that they weren't really understanding you. Maybe you were talking about something that was important to you, but you were using language or examples that didn't resonate with them. You could see their eyes glaze over, or they might have been nodding along, but clearly not connecting with what you were saying. It's frustrating, isn't it? You've got something you want to share, but if the other person isn't able to see things from your perspective or doesn't understand your words, all that effort feels wasted. This is why tailoring your message to your audience is so important. Understanding who you're speaking to allows you to choose the right words, adjust your tone, and frame your message in a way that is most likely to resonate. Imagine giving a presentation to a group of executives. They're likely going to respond well to facts, statistics, and a direct, no-nonsense approach. Now imagine giving that same presentation to a group of artists or creative professionals. They're not going to be as interested in the numbers. They want to hear about the vision, the inspiration behind the project, the emotion it stirs up. The same message, but tailored differently for two different audiences. It all starts with understanding your audience's needs, interests, and background. This doesn't mean you have to completely change who you are or what you believe in. It means being thoughtful about how you convey your message. When you can speak to someone in a way that speaks to their experience, you create a deeper connection. You're no longer just delivering a message, you're having a conversation. And that's where real influence and impact begin. Let's take a closer look at how you can start tailoring your message for different audiences. First and foremost, it's important to take the time to listen. Too often, we get so focused on delivering our own message that we forget to pay attention to the other person's needs. But the best communicators, whether they're leaders, teachers, or friends, are the ones who listen first. When you really listen to someone, you can gauge their level of understanding, their emotions, and their perspective. And from there, you can adjust your message to meet them where they are. Consider the difference between communicating with a close friend and communicating with a stranger. With a friend, you have a shared history, so your conversations may be more casual and assume a certain level of understanding. You don't need to explain everything from the ground up, because there's context there that you both share. But with a stranger, you don't have that shared understanding. You have to start from a different place. You have to be clear, concise, and considerate of what they might already know. It's about finding common ground and building from there. Now let's talk about context. A lot of the time, we focus so much on the message itself that we overlook the context in which we're delivering it. Context is everything. If you're delivering a message in a high-stress situation, for example, you need to be aware of the emotions involved and the urgency of the moment. If you're speaking at a celebratory event, your message needs to match the tone of the occasion. If you're having a difficult conversation with a colleague, the message you communicate might need to be more empathetic and gentle, while still being clear and direct. In each of these scenarios, the context shapes the way your message is received, so you need to adjust accordingly. The key to tailoring your message is not about changing who you are, but about adjusting the way you communicate so that your audience feels heard and understood. When you can do that, you'll see that your words will have a greater impact. You'll have a greater ability to persuade, to connect, and to make a real difference in the lives of those you communicate with. And let's not forget about the power of asking questions. Sometimes when we're communicating with someone, we feel the need to talk at them, to share everything we know, to prove that we've got the answers. But the most powerful way to connect with someone is by asking the right questions. By engaging them in a dialogue, you allow them to contribute to the conversation. You allow them to feel heard and valued. Asking questions not only shows that you're interested in their perspective, but it also gives you the opportunity to better understand their needs, which in turn allows you to tailor your message more effectively. Think about the difference between asking someone, "How do you feel about this?" and just telling them, "This is the way it is." The first approach invites them into the conversation, encourages them to think, and makes them feel like their opinion matters. The second approach closes down the conversation and puts you in a position of authority where you're simply dictating the terms. People want to feel like they have a voice. So by asking thoughtful questions and engaging them in the conversation, you give them the chance to share their thoughts and contribute to the message. This not only helps you tailor your communication more effectively, but it also deepens the connection. Another important aspect of tailoring your message is considering the emotions of your audience. Emotion plays a huge role in communication, but we often overlook it. We focus so much on the facts and figures that we forget to address the emotional side of the message. But when you can speak to someone's emotions, you create a much stronger connection. This is especially true in difficult conversations. If you're giving feedback to someone or addressing a sensitive issue, it's important to consider how your words will make them feel. Are you being empathetic? Are you acknowledging their feelings? The tone of your message can either build a bridge or create a wall. By being mindful of the emotions involved, you can ensure that your message is not only heard, but also understood on a deeper level. One of the best ways to tailor your message is by telling stories. People love stories because they connect with us on an emotional level. A well-told story can transport someone into your world and help them see things from your perspective. And the beauty of stories is that they're flexible, they can be adjusted to fit any audience. A story that resonates with one person may need to be told differently for someone else. The same story can be framed in different ways to emphasize different points, to speak to different emotions, or to fit different contexts. When you can tell a story that aligns with the values, needs, and interests of your audience, you create an emotional connection that is far more powerful than just facts or logic alone. Finally, remember that communication is a two-way street. Tailoring your message isn't just about speaking to others, it's also about being open to their responses. If you truly want to connect, you need to be open to feedback, open to their emotions, and open to adjusting your approach as needed. The more you listen, the more you understand, and the more you understand, the more effectively you can communicate. It's an ongoing process, and the best communicators are those who are always learning, always adapting, and always refining their approach to ensure that their message is heard, understood, and felt. When you learn to tailor your message, you unlock a new level of influence. You become a communicator who not only speaks but listens, who doesn't just talk at people but engages with them. You become someone who can truly connect, and that connection is the key to building lasting relationships, inspiring change, and making a real impact. Chapter 11. Overcoming the fear of speaking less. You know, life has a way of throwing us off course sometimes, doesn't it? 1 minute, we're cruising along, everything's in place, and the next, we hit a bump in the road. It could be anything: a setback at work, a personal challenge, a relationship struggle. Life can feel unpredictable, and that unpredictability can leave us feeling uncertain about the future. But here's the thing that most people don't realize. It's not what happens to us that defines our future. It's how we choose to respond to it. That's the real power we hold, the power to decide how we react, how we move forward, and what we learn from those bumps in the road. Think about it. You've probably encountered difficult situations in your life, maybe even more than one. Maybe you've faced some challenges that left you feeling like you were stuck, unable to move forward. It's tempting to let those moments define you, to believe that because something didn't go as planned, that's the end of the road. But let's get real for a second. No one who has ever achieved something meaningful in their life has done so without facing difficulties. Success is not a straight line. It's full of twists, turns, and moments where we think we're going to lose our way. So, how do we stay on track when everything around us feels like it's falling apart? It starts with a shift in perspective. Most people look at challenges as obstacles, things that are in their way, holding them back. But what if we started looking at them as opportunities? What if instead of feeling defeated, we leaned into those challenges, embraced them, and used them as stepping stones? It's a hard mindset to adopt at first because it's much easier to feel frustrated or discouraged. But when we learn to see the lessons in every setback, we unlock the potential for growth and transformation. The truth is, those bumps in the road are often exactly what we need to get to the next level. They test our resilience, our patience, and our character. And here's the beautiful thing: the more we face, the stronger we become. When we move through those difficult moments and come out the other side, we are different. We're wiser, more capable, and more prepared for the next challenge that comes our way. But here's where it gets tricky. You see, in the middle of those difficult times, it's easy to forget that we have a choice. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking we're victims of circumstance, that things are happening to us, and there's nothing we can do about it. But that's the lie we often tell ourselves. The truth is, we are not powerless in the face of adversity. We have the power to decide how we respond. We can choose to let setbacks break us, or we can choose to let them make us stronger. We can choose to quit, or we can choose to keep going, even when it feels hard. And I know it's not easy. There are times when it feels like giving up would be the easier option. But the reality is that when we give up, we miss out on the lessons that could propel us forward. The most successful people in life are the ones who keep going when others quit. They are the ones who refuse to let challenges define them. They understand that success is not about avoiding failure, but about learning how to get back up after it. Think about some of the most successful people you know, or maybe people you've heard about in the media. They didn't get to where they are because everything was easy for them. They didn't get to where they are because they never encountered problems. No, they got there because they faced their struggles head-on, learned from them, and refused to let them stop them. They chose to keep going, no matter how difficult things got. And that's the secret. They developed a mindset that said, "I will not be defeated." But how do you develop that mindset? How do you train yourself to keep going, even when you feel like the world is working against you? It starts with understanding that challenges are inevitable. We live in an imperfect world, and things are not always going to go the way we want them to. The sooner we accept this reality, the better equipped we'll be when those inevitable bumps come. Instead of resisting or resenting challenges, we can begin to see them for what they really are: opportunities for growth. Every time we face a challenge, we have the chance to become more resilient, more resourceful, and more determined. Next, it's about making the choice to keep going, even when it's tough. This doesn't mean pretending everything is fine when it's not. It doesn't mean ignoring the pain or the frustration you might be feeling. It means acknowledging those emotions, but not letting them control you. It means choosing to keep moving forward, even when it feels like progress is slow. There's a powerful quote that says, "You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great." Sometimes all it takes is the decision to take one small step forward, even when you don't have all the answers, even when you're not sure how things will turn out. It's that willingness to keep going, even when you don't know exactly where the path leads, that creates real progress. It's also important to remember that setbacks are not permanent. You might be facing a tough time right now, but that doesn't mean you'll be stuck in that place forever. Time has a way of healing, and what feels impossible today might feel like a distant memory tomorrow. This is why it's so important to have patience with yourself and trust the process. Even when things feel difficult, know that you're building something valuable. The challenges you face today are shaping the person you will become tomorrow. Another crucial aspect of overcoming challenges is having the right support system in place. It's easy to try and go it alone, especially when we're feeling discouraged, but having people in your corner who can offer encouragement, guidance, or even just a listening ear can make all the difference. Whether it's friends, family, mentors, or colleagues, surrounding yourself with people who believe in you can help you stay motivated and remind you that you don't have to face everything alone. And let's not forget about the power of belief. Believing in yourself, even when the road ahead seems unclear, is a game changer. It's so easy to lose confidence when things aren't going well, but self-belief is what will carry you through. If you believe that you have the ability to overcome whatever comes your way, you're already halfway there. And if you don't believe in yourself yet, start practicing. Start by reminding yourself of past victories, no matter how small. Start by acknowledging your strengths, your talents, and your potential. The more you believe in yourself, the more your mindset will shift, and the more you'll be able to handle whatever challenges come your way. You are capable of more than you think. Life's challenges don't define you, your ability to rise above them does. So when the bumps in the road come, and they will remember that they're not the end of your journey, they're part of it. Embrace them, learn from them, and keep going. Every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to the person you're meant to be. And one day, you'll look back and realize that those bumps in the road weren't just obstacles, they were the things that made you who you are. Keep moving forward. You've got this. Chapter 12. The role of emotion in communication. Life has this funny way of giving us opportunities that at first glance don't look like opportunities at all. Sometimes it's disguised in the form of a challenge, a setback, or something that feels more like an obstacle than a chance to grow. But if you look closely, you'll see that these moments are, in fact, the very things that can propel us to the next level. The real question is, are you willing to see them for what they are? Are you willing to step into the discomfort of those moments and allow them to reshape who you are and where you're going? Think about a time in your life when things didn't go the way you expected. Maybe it was a failure, maybe it was a disappointment, or maybe it was just a moment where you felt like everything you worked for had come to a standstill. It's easy in those moments to get discouraged and ask, why me? But what if we asked a different question instead? What can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? Because here's the truth, life doesn't owe us perfection, but it does offer us growth, and that growth is always found in the moments that feel the hardest. When we're in the middle of something difficult, it's natural to want to find an escape. We want to push through the discomfort, avoid the tough feelings, and move on to something that feels easier. But if we keep running away from the hard things, we miss the lessons that are buried inside them. The uncomfortable stuff, the challenges, the failures, they're the stuff that makes us who we are. It's the moment when you hit rock bottom that you discover the strength to climb back up. It's when you feel like giving up that you realize just how far you've come. And it's in the pain of loss or failure that you uncover the wisdom you need to keep going. This isn't to say that failure doesn't hurt or that difficult moments don't feel like they're pulling you under. Because they do, they absolutely do. But what I want you to understand is that those moments don't define you unless you let them. What defines you is how you respond to those moments. Do you let them break you, or do you let them build you? Do you use the setback as a reason to quit, or do you use it as fuel to keep going? There's a quote that I love by the author and motivational speaker Les Brown: "Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss it, you will land among the stars." It's a reminder that even when we don't hit the exact target we're aiming for, we're still moving forward. We're still making progress. You see, progress doesn't always look like success. Sometimes it looks like failure. Sometimes it looks like a misstep, a stumble, or a moment where you fall short. But those moments are part of the journey. They are part of what shapes us and prepares us for the success that is to come. The thing about growth is that it's never linear. It's not a straight line from point A to point B. It's full of starts, stops, setbacks, and even detours. But each of those moments is shaping you in ways you can't always see in the moment. It's preparing you for something bigger, something better, something that you may not even be able to imagine right now. And that's the beauty of it. The challenges you face today might not make sense today, but down the road, you'll look back and see how they led you exactly where you needed to be. So, when you encounter a challenge, don't shrink from it. Don't wish it away. Instead, step into it. Acknowledge the discomfort, but don't let it control you. Let it teach you. Let it stretch you. And let it prepare you for the greatness that's waiting on the other side. Every time you face adversity, you have the chance to become more than you were before. And if you can embrace that truth, if you can learn to see the difficult moments as opportunities for growth, you'll be amazed at how much stronger and more capable you become. We all face challenges, but the key to overcoming them is how we choose to see them. If we view every challenge as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to become better, then we begin to approach life in a completely different way. We stop seeing obstacles as things that hold us back and start seeing them as the things that push us forward. And that shift in perspective is what makes all the difference. It's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward, between being defeated and being victorious, between quitting and persevering. I've seen it time and time again in people's lives. Those who refuse to give up, those who keep pushing, keep trying, and keep learning, even when things aren't going their way. They're the ones who, years down the road, look back and realize that their toughest moments were the very things that shaped their success. They didn't let fear or failure stop them. They didn't let the difficult moments define them. Instead, they chose to let those moments refine them. And when you choose to do the same, when you choose to embrace life's challenges as opportunities for growth, there's no limit to what you can accomplish. Of course, it's easy to say this in theory. It's easy to sit here and talk about embracing challenges when you're not in the middle of one. But I want you to understand that this isn't just some motivational speech meant to make you feel good for a moment. This is real. It's not about avoiding the pain or the difficulty. It's about knowing that you can get through it. It's about understanding that on the other side of your struggle lies your strength, your resilience, and your ability to achieve things you never thought possible. There's a story I want to share with you about a man who faced tremendous adversity. His name was Thomas Edison. He's known as one of the greatest inventors of all time, but did you know that he failed more times than most people ever try? He faced countless setbacks, rejections, and mistakes in his journey to invent the light bulb. In fact, he once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." He didn't let his failures define him. He let them drive him. And because of that, he changed the world. Edison's story is a powerful reminder that failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of it. Every great success story has its share of failures, setbacks, and moments of doubt. The key is to keep going, to keep learning, and to keep growing. Because when you do that, you open yourself up to possibilities you never imagined. You become someone who doesn't just survive in the face of adversity, you thrive. So, when you find yourself facing a challenge, remember this: you are not defined by the obstacles in your way. You are defined by how you respond to them. Choose to learn, choose to grow, and choose to push through the discomfort. Because that is what will ultimately lead you to the success you're capable of achieving. Life will always throw challenges your way, but if you learn to embrace them, if you learn to see them as opportunities to grow, there's no limit to what you can accomplish. Keep pushing forward, and know that every step, no matter how small, is bringing you closer to the person you're meant to become. Chapter 13: Practicing Mindfulness in Communication. There's something incredibly powerful about taking control of your own life. It's like stepping into your own power, realizing that you are the one who holds the pen and can write your own story. We often look outside ourselves for answers, for validation, or for the courage to take that first step towards something new. But the truth is, everything you need to create the life you want is already within you. The secret lies in unlocking that potential, tapping into the strength that's been there all along, waiting for you to notice. But here's the thing that stops most people: fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of what other people might think. It's all around us, and it can be paralyzing. But the truth is, fear doesn't have to stop you. In fact, fear can be one of the greatest catalysts for growth if you let it. When you learn to embrace it instead of letting it control you, you'll find that fear is just a sign that you're on the edge of something new, something exciting, something that will push you to become more than you ever thought you could be. There's a quote that I've always loved from the legendary speaker and author Tony Robbins: "The only limit to your impact is your imagination and commitment." Imagine that for a second. There's no limit to what you can do, to the impact you can have, other than the limits you place on yourself. The only thing standing in your way is the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. And if you change that story, if you change the way you see yourself, then you can change everything. Now, I know what you're probably thinking: this all sounds great in theory, but how do I actually make it happen? How do I go from feeling stuck, from being afraid to take the next step, to actually stepping into my power and making the kind of impact I want in the world? It's a great question, and the answer isn't some big magical formula. It's about the small, consistent actions you take every single day, the mindset shifts you make, and the decision to move forward, even when it's scary. One of the most important things you can do is recognize that your thoughts are powerful. The way you think about yourself, your goals, and the world around you has a huge impact on what you can achieve. Your thoughts shape your reality. If you constantly tell yourself that you're not good enough, that you'll never succeed, that you're not capable of doing big things, then that will become your reality. But if you shift your thinking, if you start telling yourself that you are worthy of success, that you are capable of achieving incredible things, then your actions will start to reflect that. Your reality will begin to shift to match your thoughts. But it's not just about thinking positively. It's about taking those thoughts and turning them into actions. The key to overcoming fear, to overcoming doubt, to overcoming all of the things that hold us back, is to take consistent action. It's easy to get caught up in planning. in thinking about what could go wrong, in trying to figure out every single step before you make a move. But the truth is, you'll never have all the answers. There's no such thing as perfect timing or perfect conditions. The only thing you can control is the next step you take. Taking action, even when you don't have all the answers, is what builds momentum. It's what moves you forward. And when you take that first step, you'll often find that the next one becomes a little easier. You'll start to build confidence in yourself, in your abilities, and in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. It's all about trusting that you can figure it out as you go, trusting that you don't need to know every single detail before you start. The journey is made up of those small steps, those moments when you choose to keep going, even when things aren't perfect. Another thing to remember is that progress is rarely linear. You're going to face setbacks, challenges, and even moments where you feel like you're moving backward. But that's okay. That's part of the process. It's not about never failing, it's about how you respond to failure. It's about learning from your mistakes, adjusting your approach, and continuing to move forward. Every step, even the ones that feel like failures, is a step in the right direction, because it's teaching you something valuable. It's teaching you what works, what doesn't, and what you need to change in order to keep going. Now, let's talk about the people around you. It's easy to let the opinions of others dictate your decisions, but the truth is, no one else can see your vision the way you do. No one else knows exactly what's in your heart, what drives you, or what you're capable of. And yet, we often let the fear of what others might think stop us from going after what we want. We let their doubts become our doubts, their insecurities become our insecurities. But here's the thing, if you're waiting for someone else to give you permission to go after your dreams, you'll be waiting forever. You are the only person who can decide what your life will look like. You are the only one who can give yourself permission to take that next step. You don't need to wait for validation. You don't need to wait for someone else to believe in you. The only thing you need is the belief that you are worthy of success, that you have something valuable to offer, and that you're willing to take the necessary steps to make it happen. You might not get the support you want from everyone around you, and that's okay. Not everyone will understand your vision, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go after your dreams. In fact, the fact that not everyone believes in you might be a sign that you're on the right path. When you go after something big, something that challenges the status quo, not everyone is going to get it. And that's perfectly fine. The people who matter most are the ones who will support you, encourage you, and lift you up, even when things get tough. Those are the people you want to keep close. The others, the ones who doubt you, who question your every move, can be part of the background noise. You don't need their approval to move forward. You only need your own belief in yourself. And I want to leave you with this thought: no matter where you are in your journey, no matter how big or small your dreams may seem right now, you are already enough. You already have everything you need to create the life you want. The strength, the drive, the resilience, it's all within you. You just have to believe it, trust it, and take the steps to make it a reality. The world is waiting for you to step into your power, to show up as the person you were always meant to be. So don't wait any longer. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for someone else to give you permission. Step into your greatness now. The only limit is the one you place on yourself. Chapter 14. Creating impactful written communication. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a vast open field. It's yours for the taking. You can go in any direction you choose. You see paths branching off in every direction, some leading towards a distant shining mountain, others toward calm rivers, and still others toward wild forests full of unknowns. The choice is yours to make. But as you stand there, looking out at the options before you, something feels a bit overwhelming. It's like you're paralyzed by the sheer possibility. You know you have the freedom to choose, but the weight of that decision leaves you unsure of where to go. You start to question yourself. What if you choose wrong? What if you pick the wrong path and it leads you nowhere? What if you get lost along the way? Sound familiar? We've all been there. That moment of indecision, when we're standing at the crossroads of our lives, unsure of which way to go. We've all faced that fear of making the wrong choice, of venturing down a path that leads to failure or regret. But here's the thing. Life isn't about always making the perfect choice. It's not about picking the right path the first time, every time. It's about trusting yourself enough to take that first step, even when the outcome is uncertain. It's about having the courage to move forward, knowing that you can learn, adapt, and grow no matter what happens along the way. You see, life is less about finding the right path and more about creating the path as you go. It's about trusting that each step, each decision, each choice is leading you to exactly where you need to be, even if you can't see the entire picture just yet. And in a world that's constantly changing, one thing is certain: you can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you respond. That's where your power lies, not in avoiding failure or making perfect decisions, but in your ability to rise every time you stumble and keep moving forward with even greater clarity and strength. A lot of people get caught up in the idea that they need to have everything figured out before they begin. They think they need to have a clear roadmap, a set plan, and every detail in place. But the truth is, the journey is never as straightforward as we want it to be. There will always be twists and turns, unexpected detours, and moments of doubt. And that's okay. It's part of the process. The people who find true success aren't necessarily the ones who had the clearest path from the start. They're the ones who kept moving forward despite not knowing exactly what would happen next. They embraced the uncertainty, took the first step, and kept going even when things got tough. One of the most important things you can do is get comfortable with uncertainty. So many of us fear the unknown, but the unknown is where growth happens. It's where opportunities are born. It's where you discover new strengths within yourself that you didn't even know you had. When you embrace the unknown, you stop being paralyzed by fear. You start seeing it as an invitation to grow, to learn, to explore. Every decision becomes an opportunity to learn something new, whether it works out the way you expected or not. Here's an example. Think about the most successful people you know, whether they're entrepreneurs, athletes, or creatives. They didn't get where they are by waiting until everything was perfect. They didn't sit around trying to predict every outcome or plan for every contingency. Instead, they took action. They embraced uncertainty. They learned from their mistakes. They made adjustments along the way. And most importantly, they kept going. That's the secret. It's not about getting everything right. It's about being willing to take action, even when you don't have all the answers, and trusting that you'll figure things out as you go. Of course, that doesn't mean you should be reckless or act without thinking. It's important to gather as much information as you can, to assess your options, and to make decisions based on the best available knowledge. But at some point, you have to let go of the need for perfection and take that leap. You have to trust that the universe will meet you halfway, that you'll be supported along the way, and that each step you take will lead you closer to your goal, even if it's not in a straight line. There's also something powerful about the idea of resilience. Life is full of setbacks, disappointments, and challenges. It's easy to get discouraged when things don't go as planned or when you encounter obstacles. But resilience is what helps you bounce back. It's the ability to look at a setback not as a failure, but as a lesson. It's the ability to stay committed to your goals, even when things get tough, and to keep moving forward, no matter what. Resilience isn't about never failing. It's about failing and getting back up, each time with even more determination and clarity than before. One of the keys to resilience is perspective. When something goes wrong, it's easy to get caught up in the frustration and disappointment. But if you can shift your perspective, if you can look at the situation through a different lens, you'll see that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Every setback is a chance to learn something new about yourself, about your abilities, and about how you can do things differently moving forward. The more resilient you become, the more you'll realize that setbacks aren't roadblocks, they're stepping stones on the way to success. And as you build your resilience, you'll also start to see that you have more control than you might think. You have the ability to shape your own experience, to choose how you respond to what happens around you. When you stop focusing on what's out of your control and start focusing on what you can control, your mindset, your actions, your choices, you'll begin to feel more empowered. You'll begin to realize that you're not a passive observer in your life, you're the creator. You have the ability to shape your future, one decision at a time. That's the power of mindset. It's the ability to look at any situation, no matter how challenging, and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? What's the opportunity in this challenge? When you adopt that mindset, you'll start seeing challenges as opportunities, setbacks as lessons, and every step of your journey as part of a greater unfolding story. And that's when everything begins to change. That's when you stop feeling stuck and start feeling like you're in the driver's seat of your own life. So, what's the takeaway here? It's simple. You are capable of handling whatever life throws at you. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to know exactly where you're going. You don't need to wait for the perfect conditions to take action. What you need is the courage to take that first step, the resilience to keep going when things get tough, and the mindset to view every challenge as an opportunity for growth. Life isn't about avoiding uncertainty, it's about embracing it and using it to your advantage. The more you do that, the more you'll realize that the journey is just as important, if not more so, than the destination. And when you finally look back, you'll see that every step, every choice, every challenge, and every triumph led you to exactly where you were meant to be. Chapter 15. Using visual aids effectively. You've probably heard the saying, the only constant in life is change. It's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot, but there's a reason it resonates so deeply. Change is inevitable. It's a part of life. And yet, how many of us really embrace it? How many of us actually lean into change rather than resisting it? How many of us get caught up in the fear of it or the discomfort of it and let it hold us back? The truth is, change is one of the most powerful forces in our lives, and how we respond to it determines the course of our success and happiness. It's easy to look at the world around us and see everything shifting, new technologies, evolving careers, different ways of living, and an ever-changing landscape of opportunities. And yet, many of us still hold on to the familiar. We find comfort in what we know, even when it no longer serves us. We cling to old habits, old routines, and old ways of thinking because they feel safe. But here's the reality. The world doesn't stop moving just because we're comfortable. The world keeps evolving, and so must we. When you stop and think about it, isn't that one of the biggest reasons so many people feel stuck in their lives? It's not that they're incapable of achieving great things. It's not that they lack talent or intelligence. The real issue is that they've stopped changing. They've stopped growing. They've stopped pushing themselves outside of their comfort zones and trying new things. And as a result, they've stagnated. They've built a life that's predictable, but it's also unremarkable. And deep down, they know it. But here's the beautiful thing about change. It's not something that happens to us. It's something we can choose to create in our own lives. Change doesn't have to be some grand, dramatic event. It doesn't have to be a complete overhaul of your entire life. In fact, it's often the small changes, the daily shifts, the little decisions you make every day that accumulate and lead to the most profound transformations. It's the decision to wake up an hour earlier, to work on your dreams, even when it feels uncomfortable. It's the choice to try something new, even if you're not sure how it will turn out. It's the willingness to let go of what's familiar and open yourself up to new possibilities, even if it feels uncertain. The truth is, change requires courage. It requires the courage to take that first step into the unknown, to face the discomfort, to risk failure, and to trust that it will be worth it in the end. And I know that fear of the unknown can feel paralyzing. I know that it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that you're not ready, that you don't have what it takes, or that it's too late for you. But those thoughts are nothing more than excuses. They're the voices of doubt that will always be there, trying to keep you stuck. The trick is not to eliminate fear, it's to move forward in spite of it. One of the most powerful ways to embrace change is by shifting the way you think about it. Most people see change as something to be feared, something that disrupts their lives and makes them uncomfortable. But what if we flipped that perspective? What if we saw change as an opportunity to grow? What if we looked at change as a gift, a chance to reinvent ourselves, to become better versions of who we are, to level up in ways we never thought possible? Imagine how differently you would approach your life if you saw every change, every challenge, as a stepping stone towards something greater. Change is also the key to breaking free from the patterns that are holding you back. We all have habits and behaviors that no longer serve us. We have limiting beliefs, toxic thought patterns, and outdated ways of thinking that keep us trapped in the past. And the only way to break free from them is by changing. By challenging yourself to think differently, act differently, and show up differently in the world. You're not a prisoner to your old ways of thinking unless you choose to be. You have the power to rewrite your story at any time. And that starts with embracing change. Now, I know change isn't always easy. It's not always smooth sailing. In fact, it's often downright uncomfortable. But discomfort is where the magic happens. It's where growth happens. It's where transformation happens. When you're willing to step into the discomfort of change, you unlock a whole new level of potential within yourself. You start to see things you never saw before. You start to develop strengths you didn't know you had. You start to uncover the parts of yourself that were hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to take action. The other side of change is a version of you that is stronger, wiser, more confident, and more capable. The more you embrace change, the more you'll realize that you are constantly evolving. You're not the same person you were a year ago, or even 6 months ago. And the more you embrace change, the more you'll see that there's no end to your growth. You're a work in progress, always refining, always becoming. And that's the beauty of it. Think about the people you admire the most, the ones who inspire you, who have achieved incredible things. What do they all have in common? I'll tell you, they've all embraced change, they've all faced challenges, they've all taken risks, and they've all stepped outside their comfort zones. They didn't get where they are by staying stagnant. They got there by continuously evolving, learning, and adapting to the world around them. And you can do the same. The key to making change work for you is consistency. Change doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't always happen in big dramatic moments. It's the small, consistent actions that lead to lasting transformation. It's waking up every day and deciding that you're going to make one small change, no matter how insignificant it seems at the time. It's committing to your own growth, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. And it's trusting that, over time, those small changes will add up to something extraordinary. There will be times when you stumble, when you fail, when you feel like giving up. That's a natural part of the process. Change is not linear, it's messy, it's imperfect, and it's full of ups and downs. But the important thing is that you keep going. Every setback is a lesson. Every failure is an opportunity to learn. And every challenge is a chance to grow stronger. If you can embrace that mindset, you'll never truly fail. You'll always be moving forward, no matter how slow it feels. So, as you stand at the edge of change, take a deep breath and embrace the journey. Trust yourself. Trust the process. Know that you have everything you need inside of you to navigate whatever comes your way. You are not just capable of change, you are meant for it. And when you embrace that truth, you unlock a future that is far greater than anything you could ever imagine. Keep moving forward, one step at a time, and let the changes you make today shape the life you want to create tomorrow. Chapter 16: Navigating Difficult Conversations. We all have those moments in life when we feel like we've hit a wall. The kind of wall that makes you question everything. The kind that feels like a dead end, where it seems like you've tried every possible route and still haven't gotten any closer to your goals. In these moments, it's easy to believe that maybe you're not cut out for success, or that you've reached your limit. But here's the truth. The wall you're facing is not your end. It's a doorway, a threshold, a signal that it's time to rise, push forward, and unlock the next level of your potential. So many of us look at obstacles as signs that we're doing something wrong, that we should turn back. And while it's natural to feel frustrated, what if I told you that these moments are actually the greatest opportunities for growth? What if the challenges you face are the stepping stones that will take you from where you are to where you want to go? You see, the greatest breakthroughs in life don't happen when things are smooth and easy. They happen when things are tough, when you're on the edge, when it feels like the odds are stacked against you. That's when you truly discover who you are, what you're capable of, and what you're made of. The thing is, most people will encounter setbacks and quit. They'll look at failure as the end of the road instead of a lesson or a stepping stone. But it's those who push through, those who continue to put one foot in front of the other, who eventually come out on top. It's not that they don't face challenges, they do. They face failure, rejection, and frustration, just like everyone else. But they've learned that those things don't define them. What defines them is their ability to persevere. They know that success isn't a straight line. It's more like a winding road, with plenty of detours and bumps along the way. Think about any successful person you admire. Whether it's someone in your personal life or someone you see in the public eye, I guarantee you they've faced obstacles. In fact, they probably faced far more setbacks than you'll ever know. The difference is, they kept going. They chose not to give up when the going got tough. They chose to keep moving forward, even when it felt like they were making no progress. And that's the key. Progress isn't always obvious. It's not always about taking giant leaps forward. Sometimes it's about making small, consistent steps, even when the results aren't immediately visible. When you're facing challenges, it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to think that you're just not good enough, or that your dreams are out of reach. But that's when you need to dig deep. That's when you need to remind yourself why you started in the first place. Remember, success isn't about avoiding failure, it's about learning how to fail forward. It's about seeing each setback as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to come back stronger. Every time you fail and get back up, you become more resilient. You become more determined. You become someone who refuses to quit, no matter how tough things get. In these moments of struggle, it's important to keep your vision clear. It's easy to get lost in the details, to focus on how hard things are or how far you have left to go. But you need to keep your eyes on the bigger picture. You need to remind yourself of the why behind everything you're doing. Why are you working so hard? What's driving you? What's the vision you have for your life, your future, and your impact on the world? The more you keep your focus on that vision, the easier it becomes to push through the tough times. The obstacles in your path will no longer feel like walls. They'll feel like small hurdles to overcome. It's also essential to give yourself grace along the way. Success doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, and it's okay to stumble. It's okay to make mistakes. What matters is that you don't let those mistakes stop you. What matters is that you use them as stepping stones, as lessons that will propel you forward. You're going to hit bumps along the way, but each bump is part of the process. Each mistake is an opportunity to refine your approach, to become better, and to grow. One of the most powerful tools you have in these moments is your mindset. How you choose to view a challenge will determine whether you succeed or give up. If you look at a challenge and think, "This is too hard, I can't do this," then that's what you'll believe. But if you look at it and think, "This is tough, but I'm tougher," then you've already taken the first step toward overcoming it. It's all about your inner dialogue. The thoughts you choose to believe shape the actions you take, and the actions you take shape the results you get. But here's the thing, it's not enough to just have a positive mindset. You also need to take massive, consistent action, no matter how many books you read, how many motivational speeches you listen to, or how much advice you get. None of it will matter unless you take action. You need to be willing to get your hands dirty, to put in the work, and to keep showing up, even when you don't feel like it. The truth is, the people who succeed are often the ones who simply refuse to quit. They get knocked down, but they get back up. They stumble, but they get back on their feet. They take action, even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. And in doing so, they create their own success. There's a saying that goes, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." If you're facing a challenge, or if you're feeling stuck in your progress, the best time to take action is now. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for everything to be lined up perfectly before you start. Start where you are, with what you have, and keep moving forward. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates progress, and progress leads to success. As you continue on your journey, you're going to encounter many obstacles. You're going to face times when you feel like giving up. But in those moments, remember that you are capable of far more than you realize. You are stronger, more resilient, and more resourceful than you think. And every challenge you face is simply an opportunity to grow. Embrace it. Welcome it. Know that each step you take, no matter how small, is a step closer to the life you're building. Success isn't about avoiding obstacles, it's about overcoming them. It's about continuing to move forward, even when it's hard. It's about taking consistent action, developing a mindset of perseverance, and trusting in your ability to rise above whatever life throws your way. So keep going, keep pushing, and remember, the only thing standing between you and your goals is your willingness to keep going when things get tough. And when you do, you'll find that the obstacles you once feared are nothing more than stepping stones on the path to your success. Chapter 17. The Role of Tone and Delivery. There comes a moment in every person's journey when the temptation to stop, to settle, or to give in becomes overwhelming. When the weight of the world feels like it's pressing down on your shoulders, and you wonder if the effort is worth it. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the dream you're chasing is too far out of reach, that you've given everything, and somehow it still doesn't feel like enough. I've been there, and I know it can be one of the most disheartening feelings to experience. But here's what I want you to understand: that very moment, the one when you feel like you're at your breaking point, is often the moment just before everything shifts. It's the moment right before you break through to the other side. You see, when things get tough, when the path ahead seems unclear, and when failure seems to be knocking at your door, it's easy to want to retreat. It's easy to believe that maybe it's time to turn back, to leave the dream behind. But the truth is, if you can push through those moments, if you can hold on just a little bit longer, that's where the magic happens. That's where growth occurs, and where the door to success starts to open. But you can't get there without embracing the struggle, without understanding that the discomfort and the challenge are not signs that you should quit. They're signs that you are on the verge of something incredible. Think about the times in your life when you've faced challenges, when you've struggled and wondered if it would ever get better. Maybe it was a job you weren't sure you'd succeed at. Maybe it was a relationship that seemed to be falling apart, or a health challenge that made you question your strength. No matter what it was, I guarantee you've had moments when you questioned your ability to continue. But here's the truth: every one of those moments was shaping you. It was strengthening your character, developing your resilience, and refining your ability to keep going even when you didn't feel like it. In fact, those moments were the ones that prepared you for the success you're destined to achieve. They were the tests that showed you just how strong you really are. One of the most profound realizations I've had in my own journey is that success isn't about avoiding obstacles. It's not about never facing hardship or struggle. The people who truly succeed, the ones who make the greatest impact, are the ones who embrace those obstacles. They don't shy away from them. They lean into them. They see every challenge as an opportunity, not a setback. And it's in that shift in perspective, that ability to turn adversity into opportunity, that true success is found. It's important to remember that growth doesn't come in a straight line. We often think that once we set a goal, it should be a smooth and easy journey to the finish line. But in reality, the path is often winding, full of unexpected twists, turns, and detours. And that's okay. In fact, that's where the magic happens. The journey isn't about getting from point A to point B without any bumps along the way. It's about what you learn on that journey. It's about the person you become as you navigate the challenges. It's about building the mental and emotional resilience to keep going, even when the road gets tough. Let's talk about resilience for a moment. Resilience is what separates those who reach their goals from those who give up. It's not that resilient people don't face challenges. They absolutely do. In fact, they probably face even more challenges than others. But resilience allows them to keep going, no matter how hard it gets. It allows them to look at failure not as a sign to stop, but as a lesson to be learned. It gives them the strength to pick themselves up after every fall, to try again after every mistake, and to keep moving forward, even when they feel like they've exhausted all their energy. And that's what will carry you through the tough times. When you cultivate resilience, you become unstoppable. But how do you build that resilience? It starts with your mindset. You've got to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is the belief that your abilities are limited, that you're either good at something or you're not. It's the kind of thinking that tells you, if I fail, that means I'm not cut out for this. On the other hand, a growth mindset is the belief that your abilities can be developed through effort and perseverance. With a growth mindset, failure becomes a part of the process, not an end point. It's just feedback, a chance to adjust and improve. To build resilience, you also have to practice self-compassion. This is something that often gets overlooked. We're so quick to be hard on ourselves when we make mistakes or when things don't go according to plan. But beating yourself up only drains your energy and keeps you stuck. Instead, you have to learn to be kind to yourself, to give yourself grace when things don't go perfectly. Treat yourself like you would a friend. If they were struggling, you wouldn't criticize them, you'd offer encouragement. You'd remind them that failure is part of the process and that they're capable of bouncing back. You need to do the same for yourself. Another key to resilience is having a support system. It's incredibly powerful to have people in your life who believe in you, who support you, and who encourage you when things get tough. But you also need to be your own greatest supporter. You need to believe in your own ability to overcome challenges. Self-belief is the foundation of resilience. When you know, deep down, that you are capable of handling whatever comes your way, it's much easier to keep moving forward. Now, let's talk about action, because building resilience isn't just about thinking positively or having a good mindset. It's about taking action, no matter how small it may seem. The truth is, you'll never build resilience by sitting on the sidelines. You have to get in the game. You have to take risks, make mistakes, and learn along the way. The more you take action, the more you reinforce the belief in your own abilities. And with every action you take, you build momentum. Momentum is what helps you push through when things get tough. It's like a snowball effect. The more you do, the more confident you become. And the more confident you are, the more likely you are to keep going. But here's the most important thing to remember. There will always be setbacks. Always. There will always be moments when you feel like giving up. There will be moments when you doubt yourself, when you think you're not good enough, when you feel like you've hit a wall. And that's okay. That's part of the journey. What matters is that you don't stay there. What matters is that you keep going. You take one more step, no matter how small. You get back up, no matter how many times you've fallen. Because the secret to success isn't in avoiding failure, it's in being willing to fail, to learn, and to keep going. When you build resilience, you create a foundation that will carry you through the hard times. You develop the strength to keep moving forward, to embrace challenges, and to believe in your own ability to overcome them. And as you continue on this journey, you'll find that the obstacles you once thought were insurmountable are actually the very things that will lead you to your success. Keep pushing, keep growing, and know that every step you take brings you closer to the person you're meant to be. Chapter 18. Building rapport through concise communication. Success isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's not just about getting from point A to point B as quickly as possible. It's about the person you become along the way. It's about the growth, the lessons, and the transformation that happens within you when you commit to living your best life. But the thing is, so many of us get caught up in the idea that success is this end goal that we'll only reach once we've checked off all the boxes. Once we've accomplished everything on our to-do list, once we've hit every milestone, then and only then we'll be successful. But here's the truth. If we wait until we've achieved everything before we celebrate, we'll miss out on the most important part of the journey, the process itself. Life is happening right now. The steps you're taking, the challenges you're facing, and the little victories along the way are just as valuable as the big, shiny accomplishments. Success isn't about getting to a certain place in life. It's about making the most of every moment, every experience, and every lesson that comes your way. There's a real danger in the mindset that we have to reach a certain point to be considered successful. This mindset can lead us to overlook the present moment, to miss the beauty in the journey, and to constantly chase something that always feels just out of reach. You've probably experienced this at some point in your life, working tirelessly toward a goal, only to get there and realize it wasn't as fulfilling as you imagined. It's a common trap, and one that many people fall into. We get so focused on the destination that we forget to enjoy the ride. And when we finally reach the destination, we realize we've missed so much along the way. It's easy to get caught up in the pressure to achieve, to constantly push for more. Society often tells us that we need to be bigger, better, and faster, but it's important to take a step back and remember that there's more to life than just achieving. We often think that we need to get to a certain place in our careers, our relationships, or our personal lives to be happy. But the truth is, happiness doesn't come from the end result. It comes from the journey itself, the moments of growth, the moments of struggle, the moments of joy, and the moments of doubt. All of these pieces are what make life meaningful. The journey towards success requires patience and persistence, but it also requires an understanding that you're never truly finished. Success is an evolving process, and it's a process that never stops. Even when you achieve one goal, there will be another waiting for you. But instead of seeing this as a burden or something to dread, embrace it as an opportunity. Every goal you reach is a stepping stone to something greater, something bigger. And along the way, you will discover more about who you are, what you're capable of, and what truly makes you happy. One of the most powerful things you can do for yourself on this journey is to redefine what success means to you. For some, success is about wealth, recognition, or influence. For others, it's about finding inner peace, building strong relationships, or making a difference in the lives of others. Success is personal. It's unique to each of us. And it's important to take the time to figure out what it truly means to you. When you know your own definition of success, you can move forward with confidence, because you're not chasing someone else's dream, you're chasing your own. Too often, we allow the opinions and expectations of others to shape our view of success. We compare ourselves to people around us, and we measure our progress against theirs. But the truth is, everyone's journey is different. The path that someone else is on may look completely different from yours, and that's okay. The key is to focus on your own path, to be true to your own values and desires, and to celebrate your own progress, no matter how small it may seem. It's easy to get caught up in the trap of thinking you're not doing enough, or that you're falling behind. But remember, your journey is your own, and you're exactly where you need to be. The other thing to keep in mind is that success doesn't come without effort. There's no shortcut, no quick fix. Success requires hard work, dedication, and a willingness to push through the tough times. It's not always going to be easy, and there will be moments when you feel like giving up. But it's in those moments that your true character is built. It's in those moments of struggle that you discover what you're made of. It's when you face obstacles head-on, when you keep going even when it seems impossible, that you build the strength and resilience to continue. One thing that can make all the difference in your journey is the ability to stay focused on the big picture. It's easy to get bogged down by the small setbacks or frustrations that come along the way. But when you remember why you're doing what you're doing, when you keep your eyes on the end goal and remind yourself of the bigger purpose, it becomes easier to stay motivated. Whether it's the vision of the life you want to create, the impact you want to have, or the person you want to become, keeping your why front and center will give you the strength to keep going. Another powerful tool to help you stay on track is the practice of gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you don't have to what you do have. It allows you to appreciate the progress you've made, no matter how small it seems. When you practice gratitude, you open your heart to the abundance in your life, and you begin to see the beauty in every step of the journey. Gratitude keeps you grounded, And it reminds you that even in the toughest times, there's always something to be thankful for. But the journey to success is not just about the external achievements, it's about the internal transformation that happens within you. Every challenge, every setback, every triumph is an opportunity for growth. It's a chance to become the best version of yourself. And the more you embrace this idea, the more you'll realize that success isn't something that happens to you, it's something that you create. It's a process that you actively engage in every single day. As you continue on this journey, you'll find that success becomes less about the end result and more about the process of becoming. It's about the person you're becoming as you take each step, as you push through each obstacle, and as you grow in ways you never thought possible. The true magic of success is found not in the destination, but in the journey itself. And when you shift your focus to enjoying the ride, you'll realize that you've already achieved something incredible. You've become someone who is fully engaged in their own life, someone who is willing to grow, to struggle, to learn and to succeed. And that, my friend, is a success in and of itself. Chapter 19. Personal development and growth through communication. There are moments in life when we find ourselves standing at a crossroads, looking at multiple paths, unsure of which one to take. It's as if life has put us to the test, asking us, are you ready to take the next step? And often, it's not that we don't know where we want to go, it's more about the fear of the unknown. We wonder, what if I fail? What if it's not what I thought it would be? What if I'm not good enough? These are the questions that can paralyze us, the fears that keep us stuck in the same place, afraid to move forward. But what if, instead of asking those questions, we started asking ourselves something different? What if we asked, what could I learn from this? What new possibility could open up if I step outside of my comfort zone? What if we stopped seeing challenges as threats and started seeing them as opportunities for growth? The truth is, life doesn't come with a map. There's no blueprint that tells you exactly how to get from where you are to where you want to be. It's a journey that's messy and unpredictable, but that's where the magic happens. It's in the uncertainty, the moments when you don't have all the answers, that you discover the strength you didn't know you had. It's in the moments of discomfort that you grow the most. We often think that success is about having it all figured out, about knowing exactly what you want and how to get there. But the reality is that most people who achieve great things don't have it all figured out at the start. They take risks, they make mistakes, and they learn as they go. They embrace the uncertainty instead of fearing it. They understand that the road to success isn't always smooth, but it's the bumps along the way that make it worthwhile. It's easy to look at someone who has achieved what you want and think, they have it all together, they know exactly what they're doing. But the truth is, behind every success story, there are moments of doubt, struggle, and fear. The difference is that those people didn't let fear control them. They didn't let the unknown stop them from taking the next step. They chose to trust in the process, to trust in their ability to figure things out as they went. You can do the same. You have the same potential for growth and transformation within you, but it requires you to take action even when you don't have all the answers. It requires you to trust yourself, to have faith that the path will unfold as you move forward. You don't need to see the entire road ahead of you, you just need to take the next step. One of the most powerful things you can do is learn to trust the process. It's so easy to get caught up in the idea that success should happen quickly or smoothly. But the reality is, the best things in life take time. Growth takes time. Transformation takes time. And during that time, you will experience challenges, setbacks, and even failures. But each of those is a stepping stone to something greater. Imagine that every challenge you face is a lesson, a gift that will shape you into the person you need to become. Instead of running from discomfort, lean into it. Embrace it. Understand that it's not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's a sign that you're growing. It's easy to stay in the comfort zone, to do what's familiar, to avoid the unknown. But nothing ever grows in the comfort zone. It's only when you push yourself beyond what you know, when you take that leap of faith, that you truly begin to evolve. Now I know that's easier said than done. It's one thing to talk about embracing uncertainty, and it's another to actually do it. But here's the thing, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. The more you face your fears head on, the more you realize that they don't have the power you once thought they had. You start to see that the things you once feared aren't as scary as you imagined. And with each step, you build more confidence, more resilience, and more belief in yourself. What often holds us back is the fear of failure. We're so afraid of making a mistake, of not being good enough, of not measuring up. But here's the truth. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the process. Every successful person has failed at some point. What makes them successful is that they didn't let failure define them. They didn't let it stop them. Instead, they used it as fuel to keep going, to learn, to improve. In fact, failure is one of the most valuable teachers you'll ever have. It shows you what doesn't work, and it gives you the chance to try again, this time with more knowledge, more experience, and more wisdom. Without failure, there can be no success. Without setbacks, there can be no breakthroughs. The key is to keep going, to keep moving forward, even when it feels like you're not making progress. Another thing that can hold us back is the fear of judgment. We worry about what others will think of us, whether we'll be criticized or rejected. But here's the thing, you can't live your life based on other people's opinions. You can't let the fear of judgment dictate your choices. If you do, you'll never take the risks necessary to create the life you want. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to live your truth, to pursue your dreams, and to create a life that's meaningful to you. It's not always going to be easy, and there will be times when you face criticism or rejection. But that doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It means you're doing something that matters, and the people who matter will support you, even if they don't always understand your journey. The key is to keep moving forward, keep taking the next step, even when it's scary. Keep trusting yourself, even when you don't have all the answers. Keep believing in the process, even when things don't go as planned. The more you embrace uncertainty, the more you trust the journey, the more you'll realize that success is not just about the destination, it's about the person you become along the way. So take that next step, even if you don't have everything figured out, even if it feels uncomfortable. Take the leap, because on the other side of fear is a life you can't even imagine yet. And the only way to get there is by taking action, by trusting the process, and by believing in yourself. You have everything you need to succeed. The only thing standing in your way is the decision to move forward. And that decision is entirely in your hands. Chapter 20. Implementing the less is more philosophy in daily life. When we talk about success, we often envision the finish line, the moment when everything falls into place and we've made it. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that success is a destination, a place you reach when you've put in the work, crossed off all the goals, and achieved the things that society or your inner circle deem worthy of celebration. But here's the thing, success isn't a final destination. It's not about reaching a point where you can finally say, "I've arrived." It's about the ongoing journey of growth, learning and becoming the best version of yourself. So many people get stuck in the idea that success is something outside of them, something they need to attain or prove to others. But true success is about internal fulfillment. It's about being at peace with who you are, where you are, and knowing that the journey is just as important as the destination, if not more so. When you shift your focus from external achievements to internal growth, you free yourself from the pressure to conform to someone else's idea of success. You begin to define success on your own terms. It's easy to compare ourselves to others, to look at someone else's success and think, why am I not there yet? Why am I not where they are? But comparison is a trap. It's a roadblock that prevents us from seeing our own unique path. Every single person has their own timeline, their own process, their own story. Just because someone else has achieved something you want, doesn't mean you're behind or doing something wrong. Your journey is yours, and it unfolds at its own pace. There's no need to rush. In fact, rushing can often be the very thing that derails us. We get so caught up in trying to get there quickly that we miss the lessons along the way. We forget that success is about more than just the end result. It's about what you learn as you go. The obstacles you face, the challenges you overcome, the people you meet, and the changes you undergo along the way are what shape you into the person who can truly sustain the success you desire. Without those lessons, without that growth, you wouldn't be ready to handle the success that's waiting for you. When I look back at my own journey, I can see that the moments that made the biggest impact on me weren't the big wins or the overnight successes. It wasn't the moments when I hit a milestone or crossed something off my list. It was the quiet moments of reflection, the times when I was forced to slow down, when I had no choice but to face the tough questions and dig deep within myself. It was in those moments that I truly understood what success meant to me and why it was worth pursuing. It was those moments that shaped the person I am today. I know it's easy to get caught up in the pressures of life. There's so much noise around us, people telling us what we should be doing, what we should want, how we should live. But if you constantly listen to that external noise, you'll lose sight of what really matters to you. You'll lose track of what your heart truly desires. Success isn't about living up to someone else's expectations. It's about living in alignment with your own values, your own purpose, and your own definition of fulfillment. This is why it's so important to spend time reflecting on your own journey. Take a step back and ask yourself, what do I really want out of life? What does success look like for me? When I close my eyes and picture my ideal life, what do I see? This is where the magic happens. This is where you start to uncover your true desires and your authentic purpose. It's not about chasing the next shiny object or living out someone else's dream. It's about creating a vision that is uniquely yours, one that is fueled by your passions, your strengths, and your own sense of purpose. Once you have that clarity, it's time to align your actions with that vision. Every decision, every step you take should bring you closer to the life you want to create. It's easy to get distracted by other people's goals or the pressures of society, but remember, you're not here to live someone else's life. You're here to live your own. And when you start taking intentional, purposeful action toward your own dreams, something incredible happens. You stop living in reaction to the world around you, and you start living in alignment with your true self. That's when things start to fall into place. Now, don't get me wrong. This journey is not always going to be easy. There will be days when it feels like everything is going wrong, when you question if you're on the right path, when you wonder if it's all worth it. But those are the moments that matter most, because success is not about avoiding challenges. It's about how you face them. It's about your ability to stay grounded in your purpose, to keep moving forward even when things feel uncertain. It's about your resilience, your ability to bounce back from setbacks, and your unwavering belief that you're capable of achieving what you set out to do. Remember, it's not the challenges that define you, it's how you respond to them. You have the power to choose your reaction. You can let fear, doubt, and setbacks stop you in your tracks, or you can choose to see them as opportunities for growth. Every obstacle you face is a chance to build your strength, your character, and your resolve. And with each challenge you overcome, you become more prepared for the next phase of your journey. One thing I've learned over the years is that success is not a straight line. It's not a linear process where everything falls into place neatly. There will be twists and turns, moments of confusion, and detours along the way. But that's okay, it's all part of the process. The key is to keep moving forward, to keep trusting in yourself, and to keep your eyes on the bigger picture. Success is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about continuously learning, evolving, and growing into the person you were meant to be. So if you're feeling lost, unsure, or overwhelmed right now, remember this: you are exactly where you need to be. Your journey is unfolding perfectly, even if it doesn't look the way you imagined it would. Trust the process. Trust yourself. Keep taking one step at a time, and know that with every step, you're getting closer to the life you've always dreamed of. The road may not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Keep your heart open, stay true to yourself, and keep moving forward. Success is not about reaching the destination. It's about the person you become along the way, and that person is already inside of you, ready to rise.